Comeback for Vasilev and Lukic! A banger of a strike for Jovan Lukic's first MLS goal!
It's fallen out to Westfield! Oh, wow! He's nearly taken the roof of the net off! Philadelphia pounce again!
Who gets his goal in his Union debut? The record signing! Off and running in his first appearance for the club!
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and the Philadelphia Union's horrid season continues with a 2-1 loss to Charlotte FC. And yeah, three more losses, people. 3 more losses is all it takes for the Union to equal the worst start in MLS history, which was set by Toronto back in 2011, 2012, I believe it was. And yeah, that's for sure a record the Philadelphia Union don't want to set. They have CF Montreal, DC United, and then Toronto in their next 3 matches. But the Union do become the first team ever in MLS history to start the season 0-6 after previously winning the Supporters' Shield. And yeah, it's a season that nobody would have seen coming. I think it's a season that nobody thought that the Union would have 0 points at start the season. Point or two you would expect, but 0 points. The only team in MLS to have 0 points. Yeah, not good. But you know what is good? José Nunez back with me for episode 401. Last week, Owen Hewitt from the Philadelphia Inquirer joined to get episode 400. More on that in a bit. But Jose, hope you've been well. I see you and the family staying busy, going to the movies to see the new Mario movie. You sent me a video of the Pokemon going, the kids going absolute bananas over the Pokemon stuffies, the Pokemon balls that you and your wife got the kids, and looks like it's a fantastic time in the Nunez household the last couple of weeks. And you're back. You're back from your long trip out west, and I'm sure you're glad to be home as you put up or hold up a giant Yoshi with an egg for people who are not watching the video. The thing looks sick.
So this is the all too expensive AMC special popcorn bucket for the movie. I think they had 2. This is the one that the boys wanted. And of course, Grandpa was along. So he couldn't say no to 2 little kids looking at him in the eyes and saying, yo, we want this bucket. So next thing you know, there's a $50 popcorn bucket in my car. So yeah, it's been, we've been busy. Yeah, I'm very glad. I'm very thankful that Owen was able to step in. It sounded like a great conversation, and I think he doesn't give himself enough credit. More natural than he really even realizes. So thank you to him and the Inky, the Philadelphia Inquirer, for allowing us to borrow him for a little bit. But while you were talking, I got up out of my seat, and as you kept on sort of describing the difficult stretch that the Union are on, I thought that one Surfside wasn't enough, that I had to go get 2 more just in case how bad of a start this has been, and how tough of a conversation, which we welcome, of course, but not necessarily the most fun to talk about, no matter how much you like chaos or not. So eager to be back. Yeah, you're right. 9 days on the West Coast. I had reflected with you. It's not lost on me how fortunate I am to travel as much as I do for work, but man, to be landing from a flight and checking in for the next one immediately, as I'm, going through the airport to go and get an Uber or get on a bus to my hotel, it's not fun. So glad to be back, glad to be with the family. And yeah, we have some Pokemon masters in the making in this household, but let's talk about this game, man. We can't put it off enough. We just gotta dive into this mess.
yeah, there is for sure a lot to talk about, and unfortunately, Jose, I think we're going to put off talking about the game for a little bit longer. We do have a couple news topics that I do want to talk about, but before we even talk about that, we got to talk about the biggest shock on the night. I mean, I got to feel like José Nunez for a little bit last night, having my DMs blow up, my notifications on social media blow up, lots of texts, and yeah, if you want to know what it's like to be José Nunez for a couple of hours, Don't, because I'm sure whenever you report news, Jose, you watch your phone's battery die extremely fast, and yeah, you just feel the buzz. But it is cool to get moments like that and the appreciation. And for people who maybe don't know what I'm talking about, we'll go ahead and play the video in hopes of Apple not taking this down. Please don't take this down, Apple. But yeah, last night the podcast got a shout out by Tony Husband and Ross Smith on the broadcast last night between Charlotte FC and Philadelphia Union. So this was the moment last night.
And while we're on the subject of the podcast, congratulations to the Free Kick, the Philadelphia Union podcast, who marked their 400th edition just recently. Great to hear all the digital content out there and talking about Major League Soccer.
It's one of the perks of us traveling into these markets, Tony, isn't it? Is being able to be on these outlets and get a real sense of how much it does mean and how in tune they are with their players and with their team and where things are going.
Westfield.
Yeah, and so I had a couple texts like, did you know that was coming? I had absolutely no clue that was coming. I would assume Jose probably did not know that was coming either. I don't even think Jose, because Jose doesn't even watch the game in English. He listens in Spanish. And so one of our many group chats that we're in, they're like, Todd. And Jose's like, what's going on? They're like, they just shouted out the podcast on TV. And you're like, clip it. I'm like, I'm working on it, Jose. I'm working on it. And yeah, I mean, it was such a surreal moment. And I appreciate all the comments on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, text messages. It was pretty cool because as people said, yeah, that part of the game, the Union were already down. It was a pretty boring stretch. Union had a couple of chances here and there in the second half, but nothing really, really threatening. And then suddenly Tony Husband and Ross start talking about podcasts. And Tony gives the shout out and says, congratulations to the Free Kick, a Philadelphia Union podcast, for recently reaching 400 episodes. And I was like, oh my God, like, I cannot believe that the podcast just got a shout out. And I said to my dad, I was like, they just shouted out the podcast. The podcast just got a shout out. And he's like, wait, what? I was like, let me go ahead and rewind this. I'm like, they just mentioned the Free Kick. And yeah, it was such a surreal moment for me. And what makes that even cooler too is before that, like in the first half, as we all know, watching that game, there was pouring down rain. Wind just came out of nowhere. And Ross Smith mentions how Tony Husband's notes just fly out of the commentator booth and they just land in the stadium. And Tony had new notes the rest of the game. And so even if that was scripted, I don't think it was really that scripted because Tony's notes went flying out of the booth. And so he had nothing to go off of other than the notes that Ross had. And so it was such a cool moment. And when I think about it, I mean, Jose, I never give myself credit. I'm always first to give credit to others because it really does take an army. It really does take a village to build what the podcast has become. And I do. I always want to acknowledge the people that have made this podcast possible. And I gave you and my buddy Brad Ferrer, who started the OG podcast with me, editing the first 100 episodes, showing me the ropes and everything, what I needed to know to continue editing the podcast as him and his girlfriend continue to grow their family. And yeah, I said it to Brad. I was like, without him showing me the ropes, the hard work, the dedication, late nights, him and I just having endless phone calls late at night, just talking about our plans for the podcast during the week, what kind of edits we want for the show and everything like that instilled in me what hard work and commitment looks like to be consistent with the podcast. And I've always carried that with me when I was doing the old show, talking Premier League, Champions League, and non-league soccer. And it's continued with the Philadelphia Union. And then, you know, starting the podcast with my neighbor, Tyler Elliott, it was really, really cool doing the podcast with him. And we had a blast doing it, but just talking Champions League and Premier League, everybody was doing it. And I wanted something more local. And I feel like throughout this journey, Jose, I've never really taken time to appreciate the work that I've put in. And yeah, I mean, after all those messages, that moment and everything, yeah, I think it's only natural that you do sort of take moments to reflect and pat yourself on the back. And yeah, I mean, I hate talking about myself, really do, because again, I want to give credit to everybody else. And yeah, I do have to, I guess, pat myself on the back and just acknowledge the countless hours producing the show, editing the show, coming up with show notes, coordinating guests, and then obviously you play a huge part, Jose, coming on to the show the last, I would say, what, year, and just watching the rise of the podcast since you joined and everything, and getting so many listeners to the show. We talked about it a few months ago about the percentage of how much the podcast has went up, and you've definitely played a big part in getting us some really good guests on the show and drawing in more listeners to the show. And we say it all the time, Jose, that we never know who's listening to the show. We really don't. You know, we can see the numbers, we can see where people are listening from, we can see all the comments and all that, but we don't know exactly who's behind listening unless you guys tell us. And so, yeah, I say all that to just say it was a really surreal moment, and I appreciate the shout out and the acknowledgement of the hard work. And again, here I go, just giving credit to all you guys, the listeners that listen every single week, even if you listen for a minute and then turn off the show and say, this isn't for me. Nah, this isn't Kevin Kincaid. Look, I respect you guys taking time out of your day and listening to the show for a minute. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. And I give credit to everybody that's been a guest on the show, everybody that's put in the work with ideas and everything. And so, yeah, really, really cool moment that I'm still buzzing about.
As you should. I mean, I genuinely had no idea what was going on. And you're absolutely right. I watched the games in Spanish. So when this phone was buzzing nonstop of like, oh my God, what an incredible thing for Todd. It's like, that's awesome. Like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Can someone show me? And like I have the Union playing in Spanish, and then I have either my tab or my laptop or my iPad with the three other games that I'm paying attention to for MLS. So like I'm multitasking, and sometimes I don't catch it. I played the video to Andrea, my wife, and she said, "Isn't that the show you and Todd like go on every Sunday?" It's like, yeah, it's Todd's show, and she's like, that was on the air. It's like, yeah, that was on the air. So yeah, she was just a shock. So it's really cool. And I think you're absolutely right in terms of, in a way, we don't know exactly everybody that's listening. We have a good idea of who is listening. I think that listeners don't realize how helpful we have been, I think, in a way, to folks who do get behind the microphone. I know of, I hate to call them weekly, but every time that this one specific person has to do a broadcast for the Union, I know I jump on a 45, 50-minute phone call, and sure, we talk about family and all types of stuff, but ultimately, relies on the ground, reporting on the ground sort of people, rather than doing the parachuting and pretending to know as much as he can, not making it up, but really not hearing from people on the ground. So it's really cool to get that vote of confidence, Todd. I'm sure you feel incredible. I'm sure you're still buzzing. I know you and I were texting late into the night as I was finishing up my Columbus Crew article for MLS, and just, kind of makes you want to invite the next guest and come up with the next thing and just keep it going. So I'm just happy, because there was a moment, people don't realize, there was a moment where Todd will not admit it, but I'll say it publicly. He may dislike this, but there was a moment where he, myself, a lot of people were sort of questioning, what is this for, right? Like, why do we do this? It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. Some people get paid, some people don't get paid. And that's the very difficult thing to justify, considering the time and the money that we put of our own. So hearing it be praised live on international television like that via Apple is incredible. So I'm just so happy, and make no mistake, Todd knows this. I share this with him multiple times. This is how I live my life. I think Todd has sort of taken some of this too, but it's very important to be thoughtful who you keep in your orbit, and make sure that it's good people that, yes, are similar and share good values, can maybe add more to your life that maybe you don't think about, and enhance it, but certainly can enhance in multiple ways. And I think Todd has done a lot of that too, and I certainly have, certainly with Mike and Kyle and Jillian and everybody that we sort of in our near orbit. So I'm just so happy for the listeners, and I'm so happy for you, Todd. So I guess I've been part of at least 50 episodes at this point, maybe a little more. Minuscule compared to the other 350 odd. So I'm buzzing, and I'm barely a part of this in a way. So it's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It is so awesome. Valerie says, my life is better because of you all, period. And I appreciate that, Valerie. I mean, I feel the same for you guys, everybody that interacts all the time, the messages that I get throughout the week. And I know Jose gets messages throughout the week. I mean, Jose's right. I mean, there was moments where I said to him, I was like, what's the point of doing all this? Like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Like, this might be the last season doing the podcast, might be the last doing the writing, the goals breakdown video and all that stuff, because it does get tiring, and it does get, you know,
I blame Leagues Cup.
Yeah.
I blame Leagues Cup, Todd. Those 4 or 5 games and week and a half having to go to Super Park. That I blame Leagues Cup.
Yeah, that might have played part of a factor into it. My goodness, dude, some late nights going up to Subaru Park multiple times a week. But look, whenever you get messages from listeners of the show, good or bad, honestly, good or bad, like I'll take all the feedback that I can get. It means that somebody's paying attention, and people don't need to agree with us all the time, Jose. I'm totally fine with that. If people agree with us, that's great. But if we can make a difference, and I've got plenty of messages from people, Valerie says it right there, that we make their life better, that we help them prepare for their commentary duties, then you're obviously doing something right. And so it is awesome to get acknowledged like that on international TV. Can't even say national, international. That is right, because Apple TV progressed all over the world. So such a awesome moment. And now we can move on, Jose, from this uncomfortable conversation, just giving myself praise. Last thing, though, Music Dude 415 says, shout out to that Reddit post last season asking about Union Podcast. I had no idea this existed. So glad I found this. We're so glad to have you, Music Dude. Wolfie says, you guys do a great job keeping us fans informed, and that's what we do this for you guys, the listeners. We don't do this for anything monetary. We don't do this for a personal gain. We do it for you guys, having the fan base be as informed as possible. But let's go ahead, Jose, and talk about the news. We'll talk about this game, even though I know people probably don't want to talk about this game last night, but we got to talk about it eventually. So let's get straight into the news. All right, so 2 segments that I do want to talk about here. I do not know why that's not showing a bar across the screen, but whatever. We'll fix it. We'll fix it later. But Malik Jakupovic, yeah, exactly. Malik Jakupovic signs a homegrown deal with the Philadelphia Union through the 2029-2030 season, with an option for the 2030-2031 season. And this is huge. This is huge for the Philadelphia Union. Almost a year ago, Jose, that you reported that Malik was going to have that Union 2 contract turn into a first-team contract eventually. Maybe it gets pushed along a little bit quicker than many people had thought. And maybe, and you brought this up, Jose, maybe it has to do with Malik earning 4 short-term call-ups this year, appearing in the CONCACAF Champions Cup against the French Force on February 26th. Club America on March 10th and 18th, and then he makes his MLS debut on March 21st against Chicago Fire, coming on as a substitute, playing 28 minutes. Last year, Malik appeared in 16 games for Union 2 and MLS Next Pro, scoring 8 goals. And this season with Union 2, he scored 2 goals in the first 4 matches this season in MLS Next. And this is a player who you and I have talked a lot about on the podcast. We have a lot of praise for Malik. We think the sky is the limit for this guy. I personally think that he has a higher ceiling than Kevin Sullivan, which I think is crazy to say, knowing how hyped up Kevin Sullivan was at a young age. But we know, Jose, the listeners know, the hardest position to develop in soccer is a forward. Yeah, sure, a lot of guys come through the system as a forward, but they don't stay there in their career. They move all around. And Malik strikes me as a guy who long-term is going to stay at forward, Jose. He just has that natural goal-scoring ability, and I'm sure you're talking about it here. There is maybe some controversy. Will he represent the U.S.? Will he represent Bosnia? I think I know where my money would be if I had a bet. I think I knew where yours would be too, because as we know, things are in shambles with the U.S. Soccer Federation. But regardless, this is a huge move, huge deal for the Union to finally get over the line and give Malik a well-earned, deserved homegrown contract.
Yeah, if I recall, about a year ago, and I do this with you, I do this with Mike. I remember reaching out to you saying, "Hey, can you proofread this for me and make sure I'm not missing anything?" I think I was just waking up in the sofa of my wife's cousin as I was out in Rhode Island to go watch. I think it was their stadium opener actually last year in USL. Beautiful, beautiful stadium out in Providence, Rhode Island, by the way. And I remember sending to you, and you're like, "Wait, you serious?" It's like, "Yeah, dude, they got him. You know, this is great." I guess he had signed his Union 2 / homegrown type of deal, the same sort of mechanism that you saw in terms of Neil Pierre and you saw with Frankie Westfield, right? Where it's all right, yeah, it's a 1 year type of thing, as I'm told, 1 year or so type of Union 2 deal, with it then flexing into a Union senior team contract again, allegedly. So this is incredible. I mean, this is a player that teams like Monaco were interested. Right, this is a serious player, and for him to be part of Philadelphia, though, again, I will, I know people hate to hear this, but I don't imagine that he'll even come close to finishing that contract with how good he is, how valuable he is, and even just watching him in MLS Next Pro, he's what, 16, 17, right, Todd? Yeah, okay, 16. Chris Donovan graduated from MLS Next Pro at a much older age. Nate Harriel, etc. All those guys graduated from MLS Next Pro a little bit older than Malik. I think Malik is already graduated from MLS Next Pro, and what I watch and the way he plays and how he carries himself during a match, and he gets involved when he has to, when he wants to too. But when he does, he makes a difference, at least at the MLS Next Pro level. U.S. Youth International, as it stands right now. Again, I don't do the whole social media game, but he's been posting some stuff that maybe makes you question things. And I know I put something out into the ether that wasn't very much appreciated by the U.S. national team accounts across Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it. And I would go ahead and guess that it would be the same if I was to put it on Blue Sky or Reddit. But this is a kid who just watched his second nationality defeat Italy to go to the World Cup, sees the way that Esmir, pronunciation is going to fail me, Badgerich, I believe, I don't know how you pronounce it exactly, former New England Revolution, now at PSV, bury the penalty kick in the shootout that sends Bosnia to the World Cup over Italy. The crowd on the streets chanting Esmir's name, chanting the national team, excited for them. And Edin Dzeko is likely going to play his last World Cup, last tournament ever with Bosnia at, I think, a cool 39, 40 years old. Like it's an unbelievable moment in time for him as a player that, sure, 16 now, but who says that he can't be the guy when he's 19, 20, and throughout that time, those 4 years, to be the guy for Bosnia when it comes to qualifying in the next cycle. So all in all, I think this is an incredibly exciting player that Union fandom and Union press need to appreciate, even if he is playing at the MLS Next Pro level. He is likely going to be probably the best striker prospect that I think the Union will put out for a long, long time. So kudos to him and his family. His uncle plays MLS Next Pro. He's a goalkeeper at Chattanooga FC, if I recall correctly. And yeah, I think he is the oldest player in MLS Next Pro as well.
Yeah, and Malik joined the academy back in 2023 from Michigan. And again, if I was Malik, I'd probably sign or represent Bosnia, just knowing that, hey, look, this is going to be Dzeko's last tournament, and he'll be the guy. He will be the main guy. Get the opportunity to be the main guy. Where our good friend Mark Kelkenberg said, it just feels like there's all these guys coming through the system in the U.S. people always fighting for spots, and maybe you only make 15 appearances for the national team, and then they move on and find somebody else, where for another country, maybe you go on to have 50, 60, 70 appearances for that country. So yeah, just watching how the US operates, especially after the cycle where they just lost to Belgium and Germany over the international break. I don't have great feelings. Speaking of international breaks, hard done for Andre Blake, right? Falling to DR Congo 1-0. Jamaica do not head to the World Cup, and you feel for Dre. They beat New Caledonia 1-0, lose 1-0 off of a set piece, and I don't think DR Congo looked great. I don't think Jamaica looked great in that game, and for a player that gave so much, a player that told us, Jose, that they should have had qualification for the World Cup wrapped up before these playoff games, and it doesn't happen. And sometimes soccer can be a cruel game, and you know that too with your home nation Bolivia, Jose, where they gave it their all, right? They go down in the first game, and then they wind up losing to Iraq. And man, for that moment, I mean, it had to feel so great, Jose, to get through the first game being down. You go down in the second game, you tie it up, and then it's a heart punch. But credit to the Bolivian players. They don't give up. They have heart. They have belief, and maybe that inspires the nation to come out strong for the next qualification for the World Cup. But yeah, soccer could be such a cruel game.
An unbelievably cruel game. And yeah, don't have to rehash too much about that Bolivia game. Efrain Morales of Montreal, who the Union see next week, kind of left the nation hanging there, getting beat on a relatively easy play, neither here and there or there, I should say. So yeah, I think the one thing I would add is everything that you see with the controversy, and this is so crazy to say it because it's a kid who has the ability to choose. The whole Nokai Banks, I think that's how you say his first name, the Banks controversy about him wanting to go to Germany, potentially represent Germany or the US, and all of these or not bots, but sound like bots, accounts and social media and even talking heads like the Landon Donovans of the world who criticize this kid. And sure, it's an opinion, but brother, you were also seen doing advertising saying that Mexico was your second team for a World Cup that you, or the United States, I should say, did not qualify for. So it's kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth while your pocket was being lined. So it's just, who can be a player, see that and want to say, yeah, you know what, like this is going to go better for me. It's like, you just don't know. Where if he is to go to Bosnia, Asmir can right now, and I said this to you and maybe have even said it on socials, but like Asmir can walk on water right now to those people in Bosnia. He is their guy. And sure, maybe he's not having the greatest time as a club player in PSV, or he's having a totally fine season. But just because he put that one goal in, he is seen as their savior. What 16-year-old kid's not going to see that and see those celebrations on the street and not want to be the reason for it? You know, it's an amazing sight, and I would guess that really sways him. So tough decision for him, or maybe not so tough. maybe other things it's easier than it is. But for what it's worth, the Union have this guy for at least a couple of years and hopefully a tiny little bit longer before a bigger club is interested. Maybe it's another a la Kevin Sullivan deal with a working backwards clock on how much the Union get out of the kid.
And let's go ahead and talk about the last bit of news. Got to give a shout out to the Union's U18s winning the Dallas Cup after defeating Botafogo in the final on penalty kicks. And this was an impressive showing for the U18 group, playing up, I believe, a U19 competitions. The U18s, they go on to beat CF Monterrey on penalty kicks. Alex Smith comes up with a crucial penalty save. Alex Smith, promising goalkeeper coming up through the ranks for the Union. I know you also have JoJo Elliott at Delaware, and for a position that didn't maybe look like a strength the last couple of years for the Union, it looks like maybe they're starting to produce goalies through their academy once again. We know Andrew Rick, it's only a matter of time before he gets the starting spot for the Union, pushing Andre Blake every single week, that is for sure. But yeah, the U18s, they go on and defeat Toluca Sao Paulo and St. Louis City in the group stage, go and play Monterrey, defeat them on penalties, and then defeat yet again another Brazilian team in Botafogo, winning a trophy. Lots and lots of promising guys on this U18 squad. And yeah, whenever you see your academy players go on to these competitions, whether it be the GA Cup, whether it be the snowball that the Union hosted this past winter time, whether it be the Dallas Cup, you love seeing these type of competitions and this exposure for these kids where we know at Jose, not all of them are going to make it as first team players. But the one thing that we do sort of see happening is if you don't make it on the first team, you're almost guaranteed to go and play Division I soccer, which is almost good enough because we know the numbers are so slim making it as professional players. But if you can get a full ride scholarship playing soccer in college and now you have a good degree, you're set. And so it's great to see these young players get the recognition that they deserve. All the hours that they put in with the coaching staff. Shout out to Chris Harmon, U18 coach for Philadelphia Union. But yeah, this is another positive for the Union Academy that's one of the best in the country.
Yes. Sorry, I was trying to reach for my my mouse to unmute. Yeah, it was. I must admit, I didn't watch many matches. It's sort of. I think actually I don't know how much it was televised because I feel like it was only towards the elimination stages that they started televising some of it. So I certainly missed a lot of it. Kudos to Jillian Almany of the One Team We Agree On, who did a really good job of following along and sharing. But in watching this match, it was A, fun, B, crazy in terms of fights on the field. Going and I mean, the Union came back and tied that game, and genuinely the last minute or if not 30 seconds of the game to take it into added time, which sprouted a fight, and then just a red card I think also came out at one point. Ultimately, just every single tackle was basically a shoving match, and William Ferreira, who is I think a very promising player, U.S. Youth International, who I know has had interest from other places as well, club-wise. Just at the center of it all, I don't know if it probably didn't help that he speaks the language of the opposing team, so he probably heard a lot of the feel of that blah blah blah, all the not so great things that they say to you in Portuguese. But they persevered, and that's all that matters. So congrats to Chris Harmon, who just joined the club this past off season, coming from Austin FC 2. I believe he was their head coach for a year or two, and now at Philadelphia. He was with the New York Red Bulls organization for a while before making the jump over to Austin. So congrats to Chris, congrats to the staff, and certainly, and most importantly, congrats to the players. That's a big achievement, that Dallas Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead, Jose. 33 minutes into the show. Finally, talk about last night's game against Chicago against Charlotte FC, where the Union, they fall 2-1 to Charlotte with goals from Ashley Westwood in the 30th minute, Danley John Jock in the 78th, and then Wilfried Zaha in the 80th. Jose, I mean, we'll talk about what we believe the best 11 is, ranking the Union's newest signings. We can give our top 3 worst players. That's fine to save time on how far we are into the podcast. Talking about the Union conceding the go-ahead goal after just scoring the equalizing goal so late into the game, and then we'll get into Blunder of the week. But I guess what I want to focus on, Jose, in terms of the game last night specifically, let's go ahead and talk about the Union continuing to struggle, creating chances in the first half. This has been an issue all season long. The Union maybe think that they have the go-ahead goal, the opening goal in this game 7 minutes in with Milan Alaski. And there wasn't many moments, Jose, that were positives. But this was one of them. And I thought maybe, okay, this is a sign of what's to come. We haven't seen this type of play, this type of build-up from the Union that much, if at all, this season. Frankie Westfield's on the ball. You have Bruno Damiani dropping deep in the center circle, holding up the play, finds Indiana Vasilev out left. But when Damiani drops deep and gets on that ball, he draws in 2 defenders, opening up space for Milan Alaski down the middle. And as soon as that ball goes out wide to Indiana Vasilev, Now you can have that run in behind the back line, which we don't see a lot of by this Union team. We don't see a lot of free runs through the midfield. But it's that moment right there. The only moment that was promising for the Union in the first half. And it's a couple seconds too late with the pass from Indiana Vasilev into Milan Oloski. Does well to finish at the near post, beating Christian Kalina. But this is what Bradley Cornell wants to see more of. This is what he said multiple times in press conferences. These runs in behind. And for whatever reason, Jose, the Union aren't getting them. But we see it 7 minutes in. You see the 2-week break with the Union thinking, okay, look, that 2-week break had a big effect on the Union. And it's ruled for offsides. And they're making blocks. They're making interceptions. They're making tackles, Jose. Jovan Lukic, before the goal is scored, makes a huge block on Diani. And then Ashley Westwood scores a goal. He scores a goal. Midfield nowhere to be found, Jose. Yards of space for Westwood to run into, hit that first time, beating Andre Blake. But if you look at the play, and I know you and I talked about it, where's the press? Where is the press on Tim Ream? Splits the midfield way too easy. I think that the midfield was pushed up way too high. I think you would probably want to see Jovan Lukic and Danley John Jock a little bit deeper back, but instead they're pushed up higher than what maybe Bradley Cornell and this team would have wanted. Splits the midfield way too easy. No pressure on Wilfried Zaha. Finds Pep Biel. Jovan Lukic gives him too much space, and it's just quick interchanging passing by Charlotte FC for the opening goal in this game. And Makanya gets turned, but then he recovers, wins the ball, but Frankie Westfield's unable to clear that ball. It's an unfortunate moment for the Union, where it starts, in my opinion, no pressure on the ball. And we say it all the time, for this team to be successful, the press has to work. Did not work, no pressure on the ball, on Tim Ream. And when you don't track back, when you're caught too high up, good teams are going to make you pay. And that's exactly what we saw with this opening goal in this game, Jose.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Ream with that pass looked like a peak Sergio Busquets, just splitting. I think, Todd, and remind me, I think it was Danley and Oloski who got split in that pass that found Zaha. And I think even if you pause it, right as the ball's zipping right through both of them, Oloski and Danley kind of stare at each other, thinking, are you getting that? Am I getting that? And by that point, it was already too late. But, I think to not rethread what you shared, which was an incredible description of this goal and just the failure, the building of the failures in terms of the system. One fails, it's a domino effect. The next thing, because it all has to be in sync. The press between Damiani, who I've been the biggest apologist, I recognize that. I have been the biggest apologist of that man, and he almost had an incredible goal, and that probably would have bought me a little more time. The press between him and really his partner in terms of Alado, and I would even argue Oloski / Vasilev, is just not there in terms of the cues and the layers of, okay, first layer, go, second layer, go. And by that time, if you don't have those two working and functioning properly, it's all just, you're just sinking. You're not swimming. You're not even threading water. You're just literally just going to get scored on. And, you and I have watched enough soccer, and I think many fans who listen to the show and watch also ball with us on a weekly basis, kind of get this sneaky suspicion and feeling, especially when watching soccer, right? When a few 3 or 4 passes start going right, you kind of get the sense, okay, this should end on a goal. It's too many positive things going right. But then in the other end, there's maybe 3 things in a negative sense that the Union did not do right that I could very well see this turning into a goal. And this was exactly one of them. As soon as I saw Tim Ream slice the defense open from, what was it, like 10 yards away from his 18, maybe a little bit further up, just about maybe closer to, yeah, okay. And finding Zaha just about, at the 18-yard box of the Union in that pass. It's an unbelievable breaking of the lines for a defender. So I don't know, man. It's tough. And I know I'm going to bring them up later, but this is a team that I'm sure could use anything. in terms of positivity, and watching that first half. Outside of this first, that initial chance you mentioned, I think that they kind of just gave up the first half, and decided, okay, well, if we can weather the storm literally and on the field playing, that maybe they have a shot the second half, which isn't a terrible game plan for an away game at Charlotte, where the Union have never ever won. Not a terrible plan, but also to get beat and scored like that in the first half is just, I'm sure, demoralizing. And I'm sure we can talk more about maybe the mood that they were going into this game.
Yeah, we could. We can go ahead and also talk about the lineup here in a bit. Because I don't want to get on to that yet, because I think we should credit the Union for the goal that they scored with Danley John Jock. And I thought it was a really good goal, because the Union, they bring out Alado in the second half and they switch to a 4-2-3-1, where I'm sure we'll talk about it multiple times here throughout the show. But I thought the Union looked better when Alado came off the field. Damiani plays as that lone striker, and you have Milan Lasky playing in behind him. But neither one of those players really got involved. Won the opening goal. It's Kevin Sullivan comes off the bench, replaces Indiana Vasilov, and the 16-year-old, two 16-year-olds played in this game for the Union in the second half, coming off the bench. And yeah, Kevin looked promising. And I saw a comment at the beginning of the show. I don't know if the listener is still here. We will definitely talk about Kevin, I would imagine, here in a bit when we talk about the best lineup, in our opinion. But when you look at that goal that the Union scored, it's Kevin Sullivan attacking the half space, the space that left in the middle from the two defensive midfielders and then the back line. Kevin does well to just drift from the left into the right. Nathan Harriel on the ball on the right-hand side, and Nathan finds Kevin. It's a good pass from Nate. Got to give him credit. But the touch from Kevin Sullivan to flick that on to Danley John Jock, who then picks up the space, tight space between the two center backs for Charlotte, and Aubameyang and Tim Ream. It's a great first touch, by the way, from Danley John Jock. Really, really good touch in a tight space. And then the finish, really good stuff from the Union. And they work hard. They work extremely hard. You mentioned, Jose, that chance by Bruno Damiani in the 50th minute. Acrobatic attempt, which, man, if he puts someone in the back of the net, I think a lot of fans are going to be quiet. You see Milana Lasky, once Alado comes up, has the Union's first chance to put a shot on target. And you're starting to see them grow into this game. Have confidence. Because the confidence, I do feel like, it's been lacking at times in this team. And it makes sense. You start the year 0-5. But they make this little formation tweak. Riley Cornell, to his credit, makes the right changes with the players coming off the field, bringing on the players off the bench. And it's a great combination there from Harriel, Kevin Sullivan, and Danley John Jock. But just there in that moment, Jose, you're like, okay, they finally get one back. And then they concede right away. We'll talk about the Union is conceding that goal later on in the show. I have a soundbite from Riley Cornell, just how deflating that is for this team. But my goodness, Jose, you don't even have time to breathe if you're the Union, because you're disorganized once again by the midfield. You have four players pushing for the ball at half field, and as soon as you do that, why are four players pushing for the ball at half field? As soon as you do that, you lose defensive structure, and we've seen that multiple times this season. You just mentioned it, Jose. When one thing goes wrong, everything goes wrong. It feels like with this team.
Yeah, and that's just it, right? It's again that domino effect with this formation, with this style of play, where again, I would, my gosh, I don't know if I can say this. I don't want to get in trouble. There's a certain player that I know that Union were very interested in bringing this off season. At least I'm told, and they tried apparently. And how good that player would have been at the press. And I think you know who I'm talking about, Todd. But hold on, let me just where's our own personal chat? Okay. Hold on. And I want to see your face. There we go. That player, how great that player would have been with this press system. Just relentless, right? In terms of making sure that he's there pressing and fouling if he has to, right? To make sure that nothing's getting through, because as soon as something gets through and the next layer is not there, games game's fucked, right? Like that formation and that style of play just completely falls upon itself. So what was most interesting to me was that Kevin just an impact player. I'm repeating what his brother said on social media. And again, I know I mentioned I don't usually do the whole social media, sharing of what players do, et cetera. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about that on the Blunder of the Week. But it comes in and sort of does that. And I feel like he might be a player that you kind of got to put up with the not so great defensive side of things if he's able to create something like that. Again, just a very clever flick to get it onto Danley and for Danley to control and finish. But interestingly enough, Todd, you can't even breathe with this team and not miss something, because as I was clickety clacking away and posting the clip of the goal, I just look up and I realized, oh shoot, they just got scored on? Like, what the hell happened? That was genuinely a minute 15 ago, not even. So it's a very difficult. I mean, to be a fly on the wall of the locker room at the end of the game, I don't know that halftime would have been too crazy, but at the end of the game, or even in that airplane getting back home, what that was like, because I would go ahead and guess that on the way there, and certainly the week leading up, you get a week and a half, 2 weeks of practice to focus on a sole opponent and one opponent only. You don't have a Leagues Cup. You don't have CONCACAF Champions Cup. You don't have US Open Cup to worry about. Not that other MLS teams are in it just yet. I think starting this next round, they all sort of get dropped in and just can't get it done. It's kind of shocking in a way. And I also recognize that winning away from home in MLS is very, very hard, but a point would have been extremely, I think, respectable of a result for the Union, especially this season. But to go and lose, to a goal that they flipped on you a minute and a half, not even a minute and a half later, is sort of that dagger that just, you can't even put any spin on it. It's just, again, like, I think, is unacceptable the right word, Todd?
Yeah, it's unacceptable.
Okay. It's sort of unacceptable to have this just taken away from you, or you giving it up, I should say. Not even taken away, you giving it up so easily. And of course it had to be Wilfried Zaha. Just unbelievable that it had to be him. So I don't know what else to add. It's just, I'm just running through my thoughts of that game, and maybe we can talk about the starting 11, because I think Kevin Sullivan made a very, very good case onto why he should be a starter on that team from here on out.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're already talking about how deflating that go-ahead goal is. So let's go ahead and just get out of the way. I feel like real quick here, Jose. Bradley Cornell was asked about that moment, just how deflating it was. And then after we talk about this, we'll get into the starting lineup and all that. So, it's a huge moment in the game for the Union. They work so hard, like we said, scoring that equalizer. Danley John Jock, of all people, scoring the equalizing goal. And they concede a minute later to Wilfried Zaha. And this is what Bradley Cornell had to say about how deflating of a moment that is.
One of the worst things to happen in soccer, when you're at your most vulnerable, when you've just scored. And, I think the way we attacked the game in the second half, we knew if we did that in the first half to that intense of a level, that we would not be able to sustain the whole game on this field in this environment. So I thought, the guys adopted the game plan pretty well from the first half, deploying slightly deeper and then being ultra aggressive. And I think we saw that and the benefits of that in the second half. So yeah, extremely frustrating. We had them on the ropes, and yet again, we take nothing away from the game. So again, many learning moments, many positive moments. And yeah, again, we fall short, but you can see over 90 minutes, we there and thereabouts. But we also have to accept as a group right now, everything's an uphill battle. Everything's a struggle. Everything we touch needs to turn to gold, and it's not, right? So that's the unfortunate part, because we're in a tough situation. But, we can't hang our heads. We can't drag our feet and mope around. We have to get up and go again.
So yes, Mark Anthony says, was his media ability nominally short? Yes, it was. And
why was it abnormally short, Todd?
Well, Valerie says it here. They ran out of time on their Zoom version. Did not have the paid version of Zoom, and I guess the Union entered the chat room way too early, and all you see is it's counting down to like 6 minutes, 5 minutes, 4 minutes. It's like, oh my goodness, you're gonna go ahead and not be able to get enough questions in here. And so I didn't even bother to raise my hand because I knew I wouldn't be able to ask anything. Owen had his hand up and he's like, yeah, I'm not going to have enough time to go ahead and ask a question. So yeah, only three questions are asked during the press conference, but Bradley brings up a lot of good points there. I don't disagree with anything that he says there. He says that everything that they need to touch needs to turn to goal. And it's simply not turning to goal. They're in a tough situation, in horrible situations. They can't point fingers. They can't blame each other. They just got to get through this together. And it starts this weekend against CF Montreal, a team that's not much better than the Union. The only thing they can say is, hey, at least we have a win this season. You guys do not. We know the Union typically struggle in Montreal as well. They picked up a surprising away win last year with Mikhail Uhre scoring a brace, I believe, in that game. No Uhre this game for the Union. Who's going to step up? We shall see. As we know, Uhre is not even on the team anymore. He's back in Europe, back in his native Denmark with Michelin, which I see Uhre is not even getting that much game time in Michelin. So I don't know. Is he thinking, did he make the wrong decision to go back home? Maybe not. Maybe it's something his parents, his family wanted. And you're right. Definitely got paid to go back after, I would say, a successful time during his 4 seasons with the Union. But Bradley's right, too. He says the way that they attacked in the second half, if they would have done that in the first half, having that intensity, they would have been able to have a completely different game. And for whatever reason, Jose, we talked about it, they continue to lack chances in the first half. A big part of that starts with the press. If you're not getting any pressure on the ball, you're not going to go ahead and create chances. And there's a comment here from our buddy LA. He says, it's a bit of a snowball effect confidence-wise. Lots of changes, no chemistry. Lost the first couple games narrowly and confidence goes and execution suffers. Then you kind of give up. And yeah, I mean, when you start the season 0-5, I do think it has somewhat of a snowball effect. I don't think this team has given up on Bradley Cornell or this coaching staff, because if that's the case, you wouldn't have seen that push in the second half, in my opinion. This team's still pressed, and that equalizing goal only lasts for a minute, and then it all comes right back down. And the Union are in a horrible spot. But one thing I did want to point out, Jose, if you want to add anything else, I know you said you didn't have much to add, and we can get in the starting lineup if you want to. But the Union have conceded the first goal in all 6 of their games in MLS this season, the most in the league. Last season, they conceded first in 12 out of 34 games. But they won 4 of those games and lost the other 8. But the Union aren't doing that. When they concede, they're losing games this season. The Union last year, when they were trailing at the half, yeah, they only did that in 7 games out of 34. And they won 2 of those games when they were trailing at the half. This season, they've trailed in 4 out of 6 games going into halftime. It's a team that's not built to play from behind. We heard Jim Curtin say that when he was the head coach. Bradley Cornell would echo the same sentiment. This is a team that's not built on possession-based style. This is a team that's built on turning you over, pressing you, tiring you out, and then capitalizing on your mistakes. We saw in the second half, Nathan Harrier winning the ball back, push up high on the field a couple times, and the Union didn't really have much to offer once they won the ball high up. Quick close down by Charlotte in this game. But yeah, this team just looks a shell of itself from last year, Jose.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. I think where I want to add a little more texture to the whole conversation is I had the privilege to write about the Columbus and Atlanta game. Columbus, a team that in a very similar situation as Philadelphia. A pretty slow start, sure, 2 points going into the game against Atlanta, and you know, Henrik Rydström, I believe is how you pronounce his name. Still waiting for his first win and got it against Atlanta, and you know, I sure Brianna McKay, who writes for the Columbus Dispatch, Tyler Fisher, who writes for the was it something Massive? Todd, is that his outlet? Massive Report. They did a wonderful job of asking the tactical things, so I didn't even bother with that. But what I really wanted to know from him, and I'm eager to go to practice this week. I'll find some time, I think, to talk to the players and Bradley. But asking Henrik, what does this win? What does a win finally, especially a team like Columbus that have been pretty good. Obviously, Wilfried Nancy helped quite a bit to accomplish what they did prior to Henrik, leading to his transfer to Celtic, if you're from that area, whatever. What does a win like that do for you? Sure, helps you on the table, but I'm more interested on what does it do for you between the shoulders and spiritually, right? And in terms of how you confidence, et cetera. And Henrik gave a really good answer where he spoke about, we worked so hard during during all the matches and we come away with some positives, but this is a winning, and I'm paraphrasing, but this is a winning sport. This is a winning business. And if you're not winning, it doesn't matter what positives you get out of some of these games. But for him, he feels at peace in a way that maybe the floodgates have opened. Maybe this is what gets Columbus to kind of start thinking, oh shit, every single player from Wes Abu Ali to Max Arfston to Zach Zawowski, everybody involved just kind of having this better feeling about what the team can actually accomplish. And the best thing for him, I'm sure, was that he did it away at Atlanta, which is, and the Union have proved, it's not an easy place to go and win historically. Certainly helps that they have grass now compared to previous years where it was the synthetic stuff. But certainly a victory like that helped a team like Columbus. And I think the Union are just so in need, obviously so unbelievably in need of points that even a draw away from home will feel like a massive milestone for this team this year. And that's just how far it's gone down. And again, just from talking to folks and I'm guessing that the spirits were so high due to the international break and getting time to bond and practice and focus that I don't know. I wonder, and that's what I'm so eager to hear. What was it like in that locker room after the loss, and how do you bounce back to have to do it all over again in a different country come this weekend away from home? So I don't know, Todd. What are the odds of them going go-karting this week?
Slim.
You don't think they're going go-karting? Yeah, no, I'm
what happened last week?
Yeah, you would think it happened last week, but they didn't have Danley and all the kids that were away for international duty. Though I bet you it was nice for Neil Pierre to see a lot of the Union guys that are within the four walls of the first team. So, just really eager to hear later this week. Should I be able to get down to campus, both for my work, but also the Union campus for whatever 15 minutes that I get to talk to people and watch. Just super, super intrigued.
For sure. But let's go ahead and talk about what is the Philadelphia Union's best 11. And Jose, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, where I had asked the question, does Bradley Cornell know his best 11? And once again, we see a different lineup from Bradley, and this one, I think, makes a lot of sense. Andre Blake in goal, Nathan Harriel at right back, McCanny and Siri Larson as your center backs, Frankie Westfield as your left back, defensive midfielders, Lukic and Danley, attacking midfielders, Vasilov and Alaski, forwards, Damiani and Alado. And this makes a lot of sense to me because you want your outside backs that are good at 1v1 defending, that they can defend against the threat from out wide in Kerwin Vargas and Wilfried Zaha. And so it makes sense. It makes sense, Jose. You would say, at least I would say, that Frankie Westfield and Nathan Harry are two of your better 1v1 defenders. And I don't think that Zaha or Vargas really threaten all that much in this game. I know Zaha got the goal, and I can't really fault the Union defensively. I think, well, partially, I guess you can, but I wouldn't really go out there and say that it was either of the fullbacks' fault for this goal happening. But for the most part, I thought that the Union kept both of those players in check. But when we look at how this game unfolded, Jose, not a lot of chances created once again in the first half. You change things around once you bring out Alado and Vasilev, and you start to look a better team. We talked about it. What in your opinion is the Union's best lineup, Jose? If you were Bradley Cornell, what would your lineup be? I have my ideas, and we'll see if it aligns. But I'm curious to hear what you say, or anybody else in the comment section. What would you guys choose as your best 11 for this team?
I honestly would have thought that this lineup against Charlotte was very close to being it on paper, with the Westfield and Nate Owethu, Sari Larson, who is part of the leadership council as a first-year player, leadership group, whatever. I know it's, if I recall correctly, it's Bedoya Blake as the co-captains, and then you have Harriel, Quinn, and Sari Larson as sort of part of it. So again, like it's cool to see that he gets involved in that way, but obviously hasn't played a whole lot just yet. But obviously they've been tracking him for a while, etc. So I think he needs to be involved. Obviously Jovan Danley, Pulaski. I don't know. I don't know where the Vasilev experiment goes from here on out, because Kevin Sullivan has made it pretty clear that he can change games pretty quickly. I mean, even the Club America game, how involved he was in some of those moments during the game. And sure, again, you don't get everything with him in terms of the defensive side, it seems, but you certainly get a kid that can flip a game upside down in an instant. So needs to be involved, and the Alado Damiani partnership's not going as planned for sure. I would have thought it would have worked a hell of a lot better, but it certainly has not proven fruitful. And just seeing who were the commentators last night?
Tony Husband and Ross Smith.
Okay, Ross Smith made a comment on somebody's Twitter post about Alado, and Ross Smith, as an Apple commentator, said, I don't know, Alado just doesn't seem to fit the bill here in Philadelphia, whether that's a skill challenge, whether that's an attitude challenge, whether that's something else, I don't know, but it's just really interesting that and Todd, I texted you, the Apple cameraman killing any type of research we would do into like body action and emotion, because as soon as Aldo was coming, I saw the camera on him going towards the sideline. I think Nate Harriel was trying to walk him away faster to get substituted, if I'm recalling the moment in my mind's eye correctly. And then there was a handshake with Bradley Cornell, and they moved on. I'm thinking, why would you move on? I want to see this guy, if he's going to spike a water bottle or he's going to be pouty on the bench. Again, like, dumb shit that I want to see in my own, for my own purpose, to maybe think about who to ask and what to ask. But of course, it whipped the camera away. They yanked it to put it back on the field, which is probably the right thing. But I don't know who you put in, right? Is it a 16-year-old Malik? I don't know. Maybe it is, or is Damiani the odd man out who maybe isn't fitting anymore? But I would go ahead and say that he's probably doing the most work when it comes to the press compared to Alado. So I don't know who you fit in there, but this lineup is certainly not the best starting 11, as you can tell.
Yeah, I have my thoughts, and I'll go ahead and put it on screen here in a second. But real quick, yes, Mark Anthony, he says, our striker group is at rock bottom, which means that it's only up from here, hopefully. Real quick, Mark, is that a picture of you getting baptized? If so, that's so sick, dude. But anyway, awesome profile picture. Caught me by surprise. I was like, wait, what? And when I pulled that comment up originally, I was like, is he getting baptized? But so sick if it is. But my starting lineup, Jose, this is what I would go with if I can fix this. There we go. I would go 4-2-3-1, and I think this could work as a 4-2-2 if you wanted to as well. You go Blake in the back as your goalie. Your back line, Frankie Westfield, left back, Macania, Siri Larson as your two center backs, and Herriel. You got to have stability in the back. And I know the Union go out and they get Ndinga to be the left back. More on him in a bit. But I think that's your best lineup defensively. Maybe not offensively, but defensively. I know defense really isn't the issue in terms of why things are falling apart for this team, but you need stability on the field. I'd go with Jesus Bueno. We saw him come off the bench last night. I think he made a difference last night coming off the bench, playing a factor. As soon as he comes off the bench, creates that chance for Milan Alaski, who puts the first shot on target. I think you keep Lukic in there as the other number 6. And then the 3 attacking midfielders, I'd go Kevin Sullivan, Milan Alaski playing behind as the sole central number 10, behind Damiani. I think that's where Alaski plays best. Kind of like Daniel Gazdag, by the way, making those late runs into the box. And then Danley John Jock, I think he offers you a lot going forward. I would play him as the right-sided midfielder. And then up top, Bruno Damiani. But again, if you want to keep the 4-2-2 formation, then you put Alaski up top with Damiani and Sullivan, Danley out wide, and then everything else stays the same. There was a comment here from Ali. He says, Blake, Herriel, Larson, Macania, Westfield, Danley, Lukic, Ilaski, Quinn O'Cavan. No clue who the strikers can be, but I can't decide between 3 very unproven forwards. That's fair. And that's another thing, too. He brings up the point of Quinn Sullivan. Once Quinn comes back, who knows what Quinn will be like as he recovers from his ACL surgery. But if he can produce the same amount that he was producing last year, or even half of that, Jose, I think Quinn would probably make his way into the starting lineup. No offense to Indiana Vasilov. I get it. Bradley Cornell has a system that requires strong pressing, but I don't know. I'm not seeing what Indiana Vasilov offers to this team other than his pressing. Offensively, I think he slows down a lot of the attacks. He was clearly slow on the pass, a couple steps behind Milan Alaski on that play in the 7th minute. I don't think he's that creative of a player. I don't think he's a quick dribbler. So where does Indiana Vasilov fit in this lineup? Maybe you want to drop him deeper to play next to Lukic. Maybe that's a possibility if you don't want to play Jesus Bueno. But I struggle to see, Jose, Indiana Vasilov making into most starting 11s in MLS. I struggle to see it. And maybe he does. Maybe I'm proven wrong. Maybe he offers a lot more than what I'm seeing. But I think for a team that's desperate for goals, a team that's desperate for creativity, this lineup that I would love to see, I think this is the best way for it. And if you look at it, Blake Herriel, Danley, Damiani, Alaski, they've started every single game in MLS this season for the Union. Alaski, 10 chances created, Westfield 9, Lukic 7, Damiani 6, Vasilov 5. That's the top 5 chance creators for the Union this season. Alaski for sure has to be a lock. Westfield has to be a lock, in my opinion, Jose. Nathan Herriel is one of your best 1v1 defenders. And I know, again, you go out there, you get Ndinga to be your replacement for Kai Wagner. But Frankie's got to be out there. He's got to be a lock in the starting lineup. He's got to. The Union are tied with DC United for the fewest goals scored with 4. So this lineup that I came out with, this, in my opinion, is what gives you the best chance at creating chances, at giving you the best abilities to score goals. I would love to see this lineup for a couple games, and if it doesn't produce, then you start from scratch again. But I guess it leads me into ranking the new signings, Jose. Do you believe, Jose, in your opinion, that it was the right decision to move on from all the players that they moved on from? I know it's hard to say. I mean, it's easy to say right now. No, that was the wrong decision because the Union 0-6. But for me, I'm a business mind. I'm thinking business wise, and I know that this fan base wants results, and I totally get it. Like, yes, your job is to win games, but they invested money. They invested money, Jose, after they moved on from Kai Wagner. Yes, Mark Anthony said if we had Kai, you guys think we would have at least one win, and I know him going was actually the right thing to do for him, but he did so much for this team. Spot on. This team ran through Kai Wagner and then some. He was crucial to the success of this team. And I think we're seeing it. We're seeing you lose your biggest chance creator, and yeah, you struggle to create chances. Who would have thought? Who would have thought, Jose? You move on from your two highest chance creators the last couple seasons, and Jack McGlynn and Quinn Sullivan, and you struggle to create chances. Never would have seen that coming. But yeah, do you think it's the right decision, Jose?
On a business sense, yes, it was absolutely the right decision. We just saw Jakob Glesnes get extended to, I guess when his contract's done, he's going to be 30, 32, 33, I think. I can't remember. Ty Baribo demanding, I'm sure, the type of money that he got at DC. And sure, it's great that he has one less goal than the Union all season, which is fine. Kai, yes, they owed it to the guy, and then, I say this as someone, and, whatever, think less of my comment because I communicate with the guy behind the scenes now, and we kept in touch and ever since the interview, etc. But he needed to go. It was what's right for his career and what he wanted. And sure, he's been down with injury, but he cannot shy away from what he accomplished so quickly with that team. Well-deserved transfer. Mikel Ua, who knows if that was him wanting to go or the Union wanting to move on, right? It reminds me a lot of Leon Flock. Like, I don't know enough about the story. Was it Leon who actually wanted to move on, or was it the Union that wanted to move on and not pay him? We don't know enough about the Ua situation. He's one that we should try to talk to at some point or another. He would be an interesting person to connect with. He has pretty good English too.
Let's book it.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say yes, and of course, going 0-6 to start the season, that's 6 L's too many for this team. That, again, going into the season, I'll be the first one to raise my hand. You're probably close second. Thought a hell of a lot better of a start than what they've done so far, but did not obviously expect this. So people don't want to hear it, and that's okay. But it was the right decision to move on from these players, even if it means that this is what has yielded. I don't know what else to add. I know that's not going to go over well.
Yeah, and I know we're getting close to ending the show here, and so I do want to talk about the Union's 6 players that they brought in real quick here, Jose. I see fans on social media say that it's either bad coaching from Bradley Cornell and his coaching staff, or it's bad signings from the front office. And I'll be the first to admit it. I sung the praises of the front office all off season, saying that these are good signings. They're going to fit in well with the team. This is exactly what you want to see the team. You want to see them be ambitious. You want to see them break the transfer record. You want to see them spend money. And I can admit it, Jose, that it hasn't been impressive from any of their signings. Was there too much change from the front office? Did they change too many players in key positions? Is that too tough of an ask? Is it unfair expectations to the players to fill in and replace the void left behind from a Kai Wagner, a Ty Baribo, Mikel Ua, or a Jakob Glesnes? I don't know. I think they're all reasonable questions. But Siri Larson, 5 appearances, 4 starts in MLS, 367 minutes. 3 appearances, 1 start in CCC for 115 minutes. Finn Sundstrom, 1 appearance, 1 start. Came in, started the match down in DC because Frankie Westfield didn't feel right with his hamstring in the opening match against DC United. Finn goes in playing as a left back, not a left back at all, and then hurts his ankle in that game. made one appearance in the CONCACAF Champions Cup for 17 minutes. Ezekiel Alado, 4 appearances, 2 starts in MLS for 200 minutes, 0 goals or assists, has yet to register a shot in MLS as well. Jose, 3 appearances in CONCACAF, 3 starts for 200 minutes, 1 goal, 2 assists, came against Defense Force, which is the only team that the Union have beaten this season. And Augustine Anello, who's dealing with that hamstring injury, Bradley Cornell had said leading up to this game against Charlotte that he doesn't expect him to be back for a while, which is disappointing to hear. And, hamstring injuries are always tricky, but 4 appearances, 2 starts in MLS this season, 170 minutes, 1 goal. The lone goal against Atlanta United, 1 appearance in CCC, which was 1 start for 63 minutes. Guillermo Martinez, 2 appearances in MLS for 46 minutes. 3 appearances, 3 starts in CCC for 198 minutes, 1 goal, came against Defense Force. And then Philippe Ndinga, 3 appearances, 2 starts in MLS for 159 minutes, 2 appearances, 1 start in CCC for 90 minutes. So there's the numbers. There are the starts and all that for the 6 new players that the Union brought in. And so I say all that to say that, yeah, these signings, Jose, haven't hit the ground running like Bradley Cornell, the front office would have hoped. And again, you change so many pieces, key positions, and you expect a lot out of these guys. And they don't produce. They haven't produced the way that anybody would have hoped. And so, as harsh as this may be, Jose, I'll go ahead and say, in my opinion, the 3 worst players for the Union of the new signings. Number 3, I would say Ndinga. His throw-ins are horrible. He can barely make a pass. They need to bring Thomas Granemark back in and work on throw-ins with this team, because every time that he throws the ball in, he's putting his teammates in bad position. He's throwing the ball to the opposition. It's barely getting anywhere. It's so bad. I think he's energetic. I don't think he's afraid to fly in for a challenge. But he's right-footed playing left back, Jose. He doesn't look all that comfortable with his left foot. I'm so confused why this team brought in a left back that is right-footed, unless maybe the plan is to move Ndinga higher up the field at some point. Maybe it's possible. Number 2, I would say Siri Larson. This is a player that we knew, that we have heard, Jose, that we heard that the team was tracking for a while, that they were very, very high, wanted to bring in Siri Larson before this season. Weren't able to do so. They bring him in the offseason. And he's not looked great. He's not looked great positionally against with Macania, with Guillermo Martinez. I mentioned to you, he had headed a ball out in the first half, and I'm like, why? There was no need to head the ball out for a corner kick. It was dumb. He was inside the attacker. Just keep him out wide. And he heads the ball away for a corner. It made no sense to me. Positionally, I think he's still learning. He's shown moments where he's great. But the worst player, in my opinion, has been Ezekiel Alado. And this is a guy, Bradley Cornell, and I'm going to save her some time, talked about, reminding us once again that he's 20 years old, which is fair. I get it, right? Bradley Cornell protecting the player publicly. Just like he did a couple weeks ago when he said he's dealing with a personal matter, didn't want to tell us that he showed up late to practice. That's why he missed the game against Club America and Chicago Fire, reported by Joe Tanzi. And Jonathan Tannenwald, I believe, also reported that. But you spend $4.5 million on this guy. And I saw people saying on social media it does not look like a $4.5 million player. And yes, the expectations may be unfair because of the price tag. But clearly, the front office believed in this guy, thought that he could be an impact right away, paying that type of money. He was brought in, Jose, to make those runs in behind, to stretch the back line like Mikal Ua. And he's not doing it. He looks lost out there. He looks lost. If you, I'll pull it up real quick. I don't know if you saw this, Jose, but his heat map, Alado's heat map, most of those touches out wide left at the center line. 3 touches inside or out just outside the 18-yard box. That is not what you want to see from your center forward, a player that you bring in to stretch the back line. I want to see more from Alado, and it's just not happening. And I get it. This team needs a spark, and you would expect a player like Alado could bring that spark, especially with all the positivity when it was announced that the Union got this deal done. And we read the reports, Jose, that multiple teams in England were interested in Alado, and the Union beat those teams to the signing. If teams in Europe were tracking him, in England were tracking him, it's obvious that multiple scouts saw that he could be a promising player. Is it an attitude issue? Having a hard time understanding the style of play that Cornell and this team wants to play? Who knows? But the truth of the matter is it's just not working out for Alado and this team right now.
Is it my time? I have very little to add because I also feel that some of these players that you mentioned, obviously all of them have not had the start that they wished they would have had. I would think that all 6 would have wanted certainly points in the bank for the first team. Though, the Finn Sundströms of the world, the Gainer Martinez's of the world, the Anello of the world, I maybe give a pass. Anello maybe not so much, but the Finn and Gainers, I think that they're players that were genuinely brought in for depth and or to supplement when they need to just eat minutes, right? I think of a pointless, third match in Leagues Cup after they tie one and they win one, and in this new format, it doesn't really help them get through to the next stage. So what does it matter on the third game? Just put in Finn Sundström and Martinez to just A, get their bonus for playing a match, but B, just chow down minutes leading into when they come back. The Sari Larson, Ndinga, and Alado ranking that you have is pretty close to mine. I hate to give Ndinga a pass, but hasn't really been there. The fact that he wasn't there during preseason leads me to give him a little bit more slack, right? Still trying to figure out what the hell this team's all about, the pressing cues, etc. But he's a professional nonetheless. This shouldn't be so foreign to him. Should be probably performing a little bit better, likely a lot better. And those throw-ins, as you described, are just kind of comical in a way. I think they're barely legal too, actually, in the way he takes them. But I could be correct. I know there's a lot of leeway and new rules that I'm learning apparently about throw-ins every single week. Case in point, Nate Harriel. Every time he takes one, I'm wondering if that's legal or not. But with Alado and Sari Larson, I would think that Alado's up top there. Is he a $22 million striker the way that Emmanuel Latela is? Absolutely not. All that Ezekiel needs to do to best Latela is score 9 goals in one season, 8 goals in one season, and that's a wrap in MLS play. So he can still do it and still be a better first-year player in MLS than Latela and be nearly 1/9 the price that he was. But all in all, is it tough to replace all those players all at once? Of course. But is this team building towards the future? Obviously. I think there's layers to this, but it doesn't make the 0-6 start acceptable. Please don't confuse my half full approach here as I'm giving them a pass for a really, really shitty start to the season. It's just I hope that they're learning. I hope that they're able to figure it out. The rest of the season, but certainly next season with whoever sticks around, because I would go ahead and guess that there's another layer of Union players that will go on to do different things in the future. I think of a Raffanella. What's that?
I agree with you.
Yeah, I think of a Raffanella. I wonder what Bueno wants to do. I wonder what Andre Blake wants to do. I wonder what Frankie Westfield, or who's interested in Frankie Westfield. So again, there's a ton of layers to this and then its approach, but we'll see. I think that's really what it comes down to. It's how much do you trust the scouting process? How much do you trust the vetting process? And I have no reason to doubt it, considering the players that they've brought in the past, but it certainly isn't promising right now.
I agree. Well, as we get ready to wrap up the show, and who would have thought, Jose, we've been away from each other for 3 weeks now during the show. So we had a lot to say, a lot to catch up on, but let's go ahead and talk about Blunder of the Week. A lot of great choices. I know Jillian nominated the U18 game where I guess the cameras went down during penalties. And so you couldn't see who had won penalties. And yeah, it's definitely up there for Blunder of the Week. But for me, it's got to be Inter Miami denying press credentials for journalist Franco Panizo, especially. And what's so comical about this, Jose, is he was rewarded or acknowledged by Inter Miami recently for having perfect attendance for home games, not missing a single game, getting acknowledged by the club. And then suddenly, they want to open up the new stadium against Austin. Lots of people, supposedly, they tell Laurel Pfeiffer, the Feeler. Is it Pfeiffer? No, it's not Pfeiffer. It's Feeler, right? The NSAR president. And they say, yeah, we had lots of people. Feeler? Yeah, it's Feeler, you're right. And they had a lot of people apparently apply for press credentials. And they say, yeah, we can't approve everybody. But it's funny. It's funny, Jose. A guy who's not missed a single home game gets recognized by the club. Now they suddenly say, yeah, we're not approving you for this game.
Yeah, not good.
No, not good at all. And when you peel back the layers, okay, yeah, some of Franco's reporting recently has become TMZ-like, posting about players' personal lives, most notably Rodrigo de Paul, posting about him being back in Argentina for his girlfriend, who's a singer apparently, and just posting about, yeah, this is what Rodrigo is doing. And yeah, I mean, that definitely does. I can see rub people the wrong way. And I know people are going to do journalism different. There is no set way how to report news and everything. I know for you personally, Jose, somebody like me, I mean, we're not going to report on players' personal lives like that. But look, if people think that's the best way to spread news, keep people involved, then I'm not going to complain about it. Is that a reason why Franco was denied press credentials? Well, not according to the statement that Laura got from Inter Miami. But I do want to go ahead and read real quick the statement posted by NSAR, the North American Soccer Reporters, the organization, Jose, you and I are both a part. They come out and say when Inter Miami began play as a club in March 2020, Panizo was one of a handful of journalists on site for the club's first match against LAFC at Bank of California Stadium in Los Angeles. He's covered the club. What is that? Dutiful and professionally since telling the types of tactical and human interest stories that are admired by fans and players alike. Ultimately, access is decided by clubs, a fact that we at the North American Soccer Reporters embrace and respect. Inter Miami reports receiving over 500 access requests for the inaugural new stadium match, and the club's decision as to who received a credential were undoubtedly difficult. Some credentialing decisions, though, are simple. A soccer match in South Florida without Franco Panizo is a rare thing. A South Florida soccer match in Miami intending to make history without Franco Panizo, that simply misses the mark. The North American Soccer Reporters strongly urge Inter Miami to reconsider their denial of Mr. Panizo's credentials. The city of Miami, in this historic moment, merit his coverage, and club that behaves bigger in its biggest moment. This is a long statement, so I'm not going to read the rest of it. I didn't realize it was all that long. My goodness. But yeah, all that to say, yeah, just shame on Inter Miami for denying a guy who's not missed a single home game. And as the NSAR rightfully point out, was there for Inter Miami's very first match against LAFC away. And I think it's funny, Jose. Once Messi and his friends leave town, all these social media accounts, all these TikTok people, all these people that are only covering Inter Miami all go away once Messi leaves town. And I'll be curious to see what the support looks like for Miami in that stadium, what the support looks like for them on social media. I would imagine they all go once Messi leaves. But most importantly, what does the coverage look like inside the press box? And you and I have been around to a lot of stadiums, Jose, around this league. Press boxes are dying. I would imagine Inter Miami will fall in line what is typical in MLS once Messi leaves.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many thoughts about this, and I know we're wrapping up, but listen, I'll be the first one to say, and I know I shared it with you. I think you maybe repeated exactly what I said to you in a way, and I know you and I often align, as we do with Mike and others in our immediate orbit, with the way that we feel about certain coverage. But I don't deal with ifs, buts, or anything. I deal in just fact that can be checked eventually. Take a look at Malik Jakupovic, right? It took a year, but I didn't miss, right? Do I agree with everything that Franco reports on? No. Am I interested in reporting what Rodrigo de Paul's doing on in Argentina leading into a game? I could care less. I could care less. Does Franco know that it was an approved trip? I don't know. I have no idea. So again, I don't know. It's up to Franco to realize whether he wants to report that or not. What I will say is that I've had the opportunity, I think most recently, and you know this, Todd, because I share a lot with you. Mike knows this because I share a lot with him too. I knew about Alado and the issues he's been having behind the scenes that Joe Tansey and Jonathan Tamwell ultimately reported on. I knew about that a week and change ago, or a week or so before they reported on it. I just have no interest in getting involved in that type of stuff. Could I? Of course. Do I want to? No, because how do you fact check that, right? How do you keep a reporter accountable on something like that? Which is just my personal opinion and my personal way of approaching some of these things. And I think you would line up the same way, Todd. I think Mike would as well. And sure, there's some sensationalism that can go behind it. And I'm not saying that Franco does that, but ultimately Franco reports on different things. But I guess what I really want to stress is that even if I don't agree with what Franco reports, I commend him. I commend him on the attendance, incredibly dedicated to that team well before it became what it became, well before this beautiful 20,000 person stadium, well before MLS, my part-time employer, and I gave him feedback on this, posted this really tricky social media posts of, MLS wanted Messi so bad to be the first goal scorer in that stadium. And of course it wasn't. It was an Austin FC player. I think it was Biro of all people as well. This weird, the first Inter Miami CF goal at the new Inter Miami stadium was none other than Messi, or whatever the post was. It's like, okay, we're really doing some gymnastics here to make it fit into this mold of what you originally wanted, which is fine, whatever. But Franco should have been there, right? I think I know other names that were there, and that's totally fine. I'm happy for them. Our good friend, I believe Alex Winley was there too, at least good friend to myself and Mike. I think Alex has maybe been involved in your content, Todd. I could be wrong, maybe not. But Alex has been incredible to talk to throughout the years, well before I sort of started getting more and more involved with social media and the media side of things, learning from her and ultimately working with her. But Franco should have been there as well. I think I joked with you. Someone should take a piece of paper that says the Franco Panizo media box or media box press box, and just also print out a picture of his award and just tape it to the wall and see how long it takes for the Miami folks to realize that that's there. But it is what it is. I hope there's an answer for him. But I think the bigger thing, Todd, and this is more on a personal end, damn, I love that NSAR has a backbone. I love that NASAR is willing to back people with this type of statement in terms of our group that we don't pay fees. I'd be happy to pay fees. I know that probably
I put
wouldn't
on the
go
survey
well.
to pay fees. I
Yeah,
said yes, I would pay.
I would easily pay fees to make this a little bit more serious because I think there's a lot of value into this group. But to see Laurel go on and whoever she worked with to draft this statement, a little sensational. I'll give her that. With the an Inter Miami game without Franco is not an Inter Miami game. It's like, okay, sure, maybe. But to have a group that stands up for its members, it's awesome. So yes, I feel for Franco, but I think more importantly, damn, I'm so glad NASR is sort of stepping in and just doing the grunt work to try to have some sort of response. So Franco, I hope there's an answer, man. I don't agree with everything you report, but ultimately you're reporting it and have some credibility, have gotten things right in the past, I believe. Don't know your track record. I know my own. And I hope that there's an answer for you.
For sure. Was not at the match as a credentialed media member. Did show up to the game I saw, but I would imagine he bought a ticket. But yeah, not a great situation. And look, I know what that feels like, not to be approved of a media credential from Inter Miami. Crazy buying a plane ticket in a hotel and still being denied. Doesn't matter how far in advance you plan that trip. Does not matter. But Jose, it's maybe the longest show we've ever done. An hour 40 we're approaching here. And again, I knew we had a lot to talk about and it was an exciting week. A lot for us to catch up on. And 200 of you guys watching live. You guys obviously enjoyed the conversation for almost 2 hours here with Jose and I. So we appreciate it. As Valerie says, like and subscribe to the podcast.
And tell your friends.
Yeah, 444, I think we're at on YouTube. We need more people to subscribe on YouTube. We want 500. I don't know what 500 gets us, but we want 500. and we want more people commenting on the show. But yes, a lot of you guys do listen back on the RSS feed, and we appreciate it. Jose, anything you want to plug? Where can people go ahead and find you on social media?
Yeah, can you bring up my tag? At Jose R. Nunes 91, I believe is what my tag is. I know, there it is. Jose R. Nunes 91. You can find me there. I just wrote, like I said, about the Columbus Crew victory against Atlanta for MLSsoccer.com. We'll hopefully make it down to the Union facilities to be at practice and hopefully grab some quotes from people. I think it's overdue, and it's nothing to do with the timing, of course. Like, yes, they're 0-6, but that's just sort of what's happened in terms of being there. I'm not there to ruffle feathers or ask questions and seem like I'm parachuting in when, shit hit the fan versus, just an everyday or every week type of thing. I do have a full-time job. And really excited. I believe maybe it's too early to share, but we'll share anyways. I believe that I will have a paid assignment for the World Cup this summer, which is awesome. Which is really, really, really awesome to be a paid journalist for a match here in the city of Philadelphia. So I'm really excited about that this coming June. It made me think a lot about my late brother and how proud he would have been. So I'm unbelievably excited for this and to share with family when the time's right. But yeah, more to come for sure.
Yeah, I was, as soon as you said, Jose, that you were getting approved or you believe that you're having an assignment for the World Cup, yeah, my mind went straight to your brother, how proud I'm sure he would be knowing that, yeah, his younger brother is going to be at the World Cup. Working at a World Cup. I mean, what a silly moment, but fully
weird
deserved.
Side quest I'm on.
Yeah, you'll look at yourself at another life and be like, what was my life? What was this? Kind of how I feel right with doing the podcast. And as John says, more Apple TV shoutouts would be nice.
More on that.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool, but never in a million years would I have thought that I would be on the news talking soccer in Philadelphia, a city that refuses to acknowledge soccer, it feels like. Shout out Fox 29 for bringing us both on. And then getting the podcast mentioned on an international broadcast, insane. Which, by the way, Jose did say more on that. Go ahead, Jose.
Todd, we should probably also share that you and I and a group of friends will be at Icarus Cup this summer.
Yes.
So more to come on that. Todd, myself, and we're trying to gather a group of, I guess it'll be probably closer to 10 people, I'm guessing, for a day-long tournament for the Icarus Cup. So I think maybe we should talk. We'll figure it out, but Icarus Cup jerseys that you and I will feature in will be available should anybody want to support a local company in the Philadelphia area and genuinely good, if not incredible, quality kits. But Icarus Cup, Free Kick Pod / AAT Sports / Free Kick Pod / whatever, Static Age.
Yeah, Static Age.
will be involved in Icarus Cup this summer. So just so much going on.
Coming out of retirement, baby. It's not getting any concussions. I do feel great, though. I will say, running again, getting in shape, does feel nice. I mean, the first couple of weeks are tough. I'm not going to lie. But then once you get into a routine, I don't know, it feels good. So hopefully I don't
great
disappoint
after 3 surf sides.
Oh man. But you were saying, Jose, one thing Jose and I want to do a lot of, and we mentioned it during, I don't know, some episode. We want to get more guest on, commentators on midweek. I think it might happen. I know I used to do it on the show. It might happen. I have a contact that we can reach out to and potentially get more Apple TV personalities, commentator personalities on the show. Something Jose and I are going to strive for, and maybe it happens this week. We shall see. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcasts of The Free Kick. Make sure to check out the YouTube channel live, every single podcast, youtube.com/freekickpod. And my God, Jose, I'm getting tired. And check out my writing, the goals breakdown video, or the podcast all in one place, thefreekick.substack.com. An hour 42 minutes into the podcast, 10:46 p.m. Work the next morning. Man, what we do for you guys. We love you guys. We really do. And we love the interaction, and we love talking Philadelphia Union, even when they're not winning games. And you guys obviously enjoy hearing what Jose and I have to say, so we appreciate it. Again, maybe we have an episode midweek some point this week. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.